So today we will be discussing Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Both are prominent figures in the black community. They were known to have very different ideologies, and I believe that both of those ideologies combined created a powerful combination. The reason why is that whereas Malcolm X wanted to be more aggressive in his tactics, I believe that sometimes when you're aggressive, people will pay attention more. Unfortunately, I see all the time that, when you kind of are passive the way that Martin Luther King would have been, I see sometimes people stomp and walk all over you. And me, I'm not in the business of getting stomped and walked over anymore. So I understand that where the upbringing of the two is also very different. Whereas Malcolm X, his dad had passed away when he was young. Martin Luther King's dad was a pastor, and I also believe I have my thoughts with that, but I never mind. But I think that the outlook they gave our communities were very much something that we needed. We needed to see someone who could do things in a peaceful way rather than resorting to violence. But then we also need to see that sometimes that violence is unfortunately the answer. I think that it's powerful that Malcolm X wanted to stand with Palestine and different countries that were oppressed the same way that blacks were oppressed in America. I think as well that when you see in movies or when in real life how the Nation of Islam, like the ones in prison, the blacks in prison who are Muslims, when you see their unity, it's not something that we really have in our communities on a large level. And I think it's because they all understand that they're willing to take it there, where a lot of people are not. You'll see where people will complain about all this stuff that's going on, but no one wants to ever do anything about it. And I think that's kind of where they get their respect from, is that they step hard and they stand together. And I respect that as far as with the Malcolm X, because even though he was pushing, violence to an extent, I also see that he was pushing community. He was pushing community. He was pushing black excellence, in my opinion. And I also understand his opinions, and when he says hey, the Christianity wasn't something that it was used to oppress us. I understand people saying they say that. I am a Christian, but I don't exactly take that full-fledged, meaning that there's so much history with that. For me, it's hard to really fully 100% respect Martin Luther King, knowing that he was doing all this activist stuff, but then he was also behind closed doors sleeping with white women. And I get that that's not the point of what this is, but it's just kind of I look at character as well with certain things. I believe that Martin Luther King at the time, with what was going on, tried his best to possibly give us something to inspire to be. But unfortunately, I don't think that his tactics 100% were fulfilling. And I think that he, in my opinion, and this might sound crazy, I think he was a plant to an extent. Because when you look at just how his roots were, how certain things came up, he, in a sense, in my opinion, was groomed. I could be wrong. But then knowing history about how a lot of, places, people, especially prominent leaders, will be infiltrated and will sell out, you kind of start to look at it And when you look at the everlasting effects of it, the I Have a Dream, the Malcolm X, saying what he stood for and not just taking, and then you see it in at least the prisons, the black Muslims, what they call them, they're a whole group. It's for someone like me who struggles with knowing to go on a peaceful route or maybe be a bit more aggressive, it gives me peace of mind understanding that no matter what you do, and it's not just me, it's never going to be a perfect situation for everybody. I think that with certain people, it's being humble. I've been saying I'm tired of being so humble, but that's when you have to understand there's a time and a place. And I think that if Malcolm X and Martin Luther King would have been able to come together as a conglomerate and know hey, we're going to pop it here, but here we're going to be reasonable people, I think it could have created a different dynamic where it would have brought together more unity rather than division. Because I see in my own life, if I'm aggressive off the gate all the time, I'm not going to get that far. I also realized if I'm super nice off the gate, I'm not going to get super far. And so for a young woman like myself who's, trying to figure things out, I can take and extract certain things from both aspects, especially because I want to be an international lawyer. And you see what works and you see what doesn't work. Unfortunately, it's not always going to work. And unfortunately, sometimes it's going to work out easier than you expected, and you won't have to use the tactics you thought. But I don't think that with Malcolm X, he was given as much credit as he should have been. I think that people try to paint him as an aggressive black man and someone that was a person that acted easily in violence, and I don't believe that was the case. I believe that after a while you get fed up in life, and I think that's where Malcolm X was. I believe that's where Malcolm X was. I think Martin Luther King, he kind of went with the flow and kind of, in my opinion, kind of did what he was told. I know that we all look at him like some prominent figure, but when you start to look at like the back end stuff, because I like to look into certain things. To me, it just didn't really make sense. I really appreciate what they both have done for our society, though, especially as like a young black woman trying to pursue certain things in this lifetime. I believe that they gave us the opportunities with fighting, like the movie on Selma. Like we went and seen that, seeing how like they would call people wiggers and stuff was crazy. Seeing how the bus rides and just different things. It shows that at that time it was a very different time frame, and I understand that different times call for different measures. But for me, I don't believe that just sitting around people letting people beat on you, kill you, and tell you what you're gonna do is the way. Sometimes people have to die to for things to change, and that's just my thoughts on it. I hope I did the assignment right. I truly do understand where both aspects were coming from, though, especially as I try to keep my certain way. It just makes me reflect a lot, and yeah.